Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Aina Shuha and we are from Group Platinum. So today we are going to present the financial ratio and also the code regulation according to MCCG 2017 for these two companies, which are Malaysian Airport Holding Berhad and also HeiTechPadu. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to start with the background of these two companies. So Malaysian Airport Berhad is a main airport operator in Malaysia with 39 airports in total under their management. So Malaysia MAHB established in 1992 and in 1999 it went public and listed in the Bursa Malaysia. MAHB also are the main operator in Malaysia and it has operate 5 key business activity, which are airport service, duty free and non-dutiable goods, hotel, project, and also repair management and agriculture and horticulture. And for the HeiTechPadu, was established in 1994 as Electronic Data Processing (EDP) division in Permodalan Nasional Berhad PNB. HeiTechPadu offers IT systems and technology services to their customer worldwide, and it also provide ICT infrastructure solution such as managed data service center, managed network services, cloud computing service, managed security service, ICT maintenance, and also deployment of and financial solution. Okay, so we move to the financial ratio. So for liquidity ratio, as can we see from the calculation, MAHB has a current ratio that is higher than HeiTechPadu, which note that MAHB has higher liability to liquidate their current asset to meet their current liabilities compared to the HeiTechPadu. However, HeiTechPadu is still able to meet their short-term obligation as their ratio is more than 1, which means that their current asset is more than their current liabilities. And for quick ratio, MAHB has a lower ratio than HeiTechPadu, as MAHB does not have a quick asset to meet their current liabilities as compared to HeiTechPadu that has a higher ratio.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and this is the analysis for the activity ratio that will be compared between the MAHB and the HeiTechPadu. As you can see from the slide, the ratio from the inventory turnover for the MAHB is 1.10 in order to measure the efficiency of its business, while there is not applicable for the HeiTechPadu to measure it. Next is the receivable turnover for the MHB is 5.28, while HeiTech has only 2.40. It shows that MHB has a high efficiency in order to collect its receivable. Same as the payable turnover, the MHB has the ratio to collect note to pay to its supplier is 8.76. And for the overall activity ratio, it shows that MHB has a better performance of their business activity. Next is the profitability ratio that you can see from the slide that the increasing of the percentage in the MHB compared with the HeiTechPadu is better. Which can be seen that percentage measure the efficiency for the MHB in order to generate their income. That's all.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I will explain about solvency ratio. So the first ratio is debt to asset ratio. The HeiTechPadu company has a ratio of 0.667 seat, while the MAHB company have 0.579 seat. Thus, HeiTechPadu was having more financial risk than MAHB as it has a high degree of leverage. MAHB and HeiTechPadu has long-term debt to total asset ratio less than 0.5, which means the current performance is good. After calculating debt to equity ratio, both company has a ratio more than 1. Thus, it's not good for a company because the company has relied too much on the debt to operate the business. The interest coverage ratio of MHB company is 0.9098, nearly 1, which means that the company will be able to pay the interest expense many times. On the other hand, this ratio does not apply to HeiTechPadu because they do not have the interest expense. Lastly, the cash flow coverage ratio. The HeiTechPadu has lower and negative ratio, which indicate that the company has unstable financial performance. The first ratio for valuation ratio is price to earning ratio. MAHB is more in favorable market position as investors in market are willing to pay 19.03 times to attain their earning compared to HeiTechPadu who only has 10.97 times. By the final calculation of price to cash flow ratio, it can be concluded that market value cover MAHB operating cash flow 3.29 times while market value cover HeiTechPadu operating cash flow 0.46 times. Net price to sale ratio. For MAHB, investors are willing to pay 1.8 seat more for ringgit sale. Meanwhile, for high-tech, investors are willing to pay only 0.43 more for per ringgit sale. This means MAHB has the upper advantage in terms of attracting future investing using the performance. Another ratio used is price to book value ratio. MAHB recorded 1.17 times, which is lower compared to HeiTechPadu, which has recorded 1.39 times.
The first intended outcome under board responsibility stated that every company need to be headed by a board, which assumes responsibility for the company's leadership and they are collectively responsible for meeting the objectives and goals of the company. Both companies, which is MAHB and HeiTechPadu, apply this principle. For MAHB, their board of directors is directing and supervising its affairs in a responsible and effective manner. Other than that, each director has a duty to act in good faith in the best interest of the company. The board of directors also delegates its power to the relevant board committees and managing director. For HeiTechPadu, they established clear functions reserved for the board and those delegated to the management. The board rules and responsibilities are clearly set out in the board's charter. And lastly, their board is bestowed with duties and responsibilities to ensure the interests or stakeholders are protected. The second intended outcome mentioned that there should be demarcation of responsibilities between the board committees and management. There should be clarity in the authority of the board, its committees and individual directors. The board charter could be used to identify the respective roles and responsibilities for the board. This principle is also applied by both of the company where both of the company publish their board charter in their website. MAHB specifies the role of the board chairman and group chief executive officer and or managing director. They also mention the function of the respective board committees and the schedule of matter reserved for the board in their board charter. As for HeiTechPadu, according to their corporate governance report, they include the director's duties and responsibilities and function of the board in their board charter. They also highlighted that the role of the chairman of the board is clearly separated from the executive director. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. I am Nur Samina and I will be moving on to the third part of the board responsibilities, where it mainly highlights on the board responsibilities on maintaining a healthy corporate culture by adopting a good ethical conduct. So there are two practices that has been recommended under MCCG 2017. So the first one is it has been mentioned that the board should be establishing a code of conduct and ethics and publish it in their company's website. So as you can see, both of these companies has applied the first practice by, for example, MAHB establishing their own code of conduct, such as called as Malaysia Airports Code of Ethics and Conduct. Meanwhile, in HeiTechPadu, it is called as Code Business Conduct and Ethics. So for the second practice that has been recommended by MCCG, where they have recommended for the companies to implement policies and procedures on whistleblowing. So both of the companies, they have uptake the same policy, which is called as whistleblowing policy and guidelines. Uh, Moreover, both of these companies, they have taken the extra initiatives for them to promote more of a good ethical conduct in their company. So in order for them to avoid any bribery and corruption acts, both of these companies, they have taken the initiative to, for example, in MAHB, they have adopted MACC Act Section 17A in company's code of ethics. Meanwhile, in HeiTechPadu, they have uptake the policy, which is the anti-bribery and corruption policy. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Continuing with the intended outcome number 5, which still focus on the board's compositions. The intended outcome number 5 highlighted on the stakeholder right to have opinions or evaluations of the board and individual directors' overall effectiveness. In MAHB, they are having evaluation questionnaire developed by independent experts. The questionnaire shall cover the following area, including board's role and functions, information management, CSR, and etc. Based on the past assessments, it can be concluded that MAHB boards focus more in building the right team, capability, process, and culture when reviewing the effectiveness of the performance. In HeiTechPadu, nominating committee are the one responsible to evaluate the performance of directors and other committee on yearly basis. The criteria are involving board structures, board's operation, as well as the roles and responsibility of boards committee, and management. In intended outcome 6.0 MCCG 2017, it's focused on the directors' remunerations. For practice 6.1, MAHB are reviewing their directors' remuneration truly to make sure it's parallel with their skill and talents and compensate their contributions toward the growth of MAHB. In HeiTechPadu, the remunerations was made based on the policy and rules that has been set by the board. The remunerations are reviewed periodically as they may change from time to time. For practice 6.2 of MAHB, the NRC follow the term of reference or TOR in short terms, which needed them to review and suggest to the boards about the fee, allowance, and other additional benefits of the directors. For HeiTechPadu, the firm applied practice 6.0, which is request the remuneration committee to follow terms of reference.
Moving on to the last intended outcome from MCCG 2017 based on our findings. It is still under remuneration, which is about the stakeholders can assess the remuneration of the board and senior management, whether it is equivalent to their individual performance as well as company's performance. So for the first practice, which is under practice 7.1, both of the companies disclose on name basis the remuneration of the individual directors in their annual report. And then for the practice 7.2, for MAHB, they only disclose their remuneration package of the top 5 seniors amounted from 50,000 until 104,000 on unnamed basis. However, for HeiTechPadu, they opt to not disclose even their remuneration package, and it is on unnamed basis too. And then lastly, for the step up in below the practice 7.3, both of the companies not adopted this practice since it requires them to fully disclose the details of the remuneration on a name basis of their senior management. To conclude, based on our finding, MAHB definitely outshine HeiTechPadu. Since MAHB is a big company, therefore they are more reliable in terms of the financial ratios that based on our findings, and then they also must comply with the MCCG. However, for HeiTechPadu, it is also a good move for them to comply with the MCCG, even though they are a small company, but there must be some internet outcome they can comply with and compatible with the companies. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum.